Did it take a minute?
Yeah, it's just taking a minute.
Oh, it says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Is
Yay.
it? Yay! I did it. It's streaming. Hello,
Yay.
everybody. Anne, hi. Lori, hi. Laurel, hi. I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys if you don't mind. Certainly when we get to a good spot to start fielding questions and all of that wonderful stuff, we will bring you guys live to the stage. Laurel, I'm not getting the option to put you on mute just yet, but that's all fine and dandy. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery. This is something brand new, super unique, and I hope that we can get this going and have lots of different open and free-flowing conversations about this going forward. For those of you who don't know me, which I know is a lot, I have not had the opportunity to meet a lot of people here within the group, the over 40, and with our special guests. But my name is Tricia Parido. I am an international master addictions coach, a personal life coach, a professional life interventionist, an all-around recovery lifestyle enthusiast, and I just love working with what I consider to be the not so normal faces of recovery, and normalizing that recovery lifestyle and creating that extreme level of EQ or emotional intelligence is my passion. It's something that I eat, sleep, and breathe every day. And myself, I have had, this lifelong need to be in a recovery journey of some sort, whether that be from trauma, from eating disorders, from chemical substances, to autoimmune disorders and diseases. I've had a really long journey of needing to have one form of a recovery lifestyle or another. And I believe wholeheartedly that we can do this without an external source per se, right? We can do it with natural things. We don't necessarily need a lot of man-made chemicals and additives to find relief, whether that be emotional relief, cognitive relief, or physical body relief. And we lost somebody. Anyway, so, I wanted to, bring in all of my friends here because Rebecca has a lot of amazing things to add. Dee Dee has a lot of amazing things to add. Necole has a lot of things to add, where we can show you that, wow, a recovery lifestyle doesn't just look like the societal vision of addiction and recovery, right? We're not all down, we're not all ill, we're not all desolate, we're not all poorly functioning people. Like, a lot of us are highly functioning individuals who have navigated through, one level or another, this need to improve our lifestyle. And so, I don't even need to, talk a lot right now. I'll take my time at the end because I really want for you guys to hear from my guests, from my friends, from my cohorts, from my colleagues and collaborators that I cherish very much in my, not only in my practice, but in my life, in my personal life. You guys have all brought something super wonderful and spectacular to me as a person. So without any further ado, Miss Rebecca, please share with us your experience in this recovery lifestyle world.
Yeah, hello everybody. I am Rebecca LeMasters. I am a networking guru and communicator. I'm also an outreach liaison, and my career path is also, well, really it's business development. It didn't actually start that way. It actually started more medical. I think that's what brought me into all of this. But I also am in recovery. This will be in March will be my 11th year of recovery. I'm very proud of that. So I'm going to make it less like an AA meeting and more like a Facebook Live. But I've been working beside and with Tricia and some of the other people that are on today for a good while now, for the past couple of years. And what really brought me into that was really recovery. I mean, and the sole part of it. And so what I do is I really do navigate the program of recovery for clients, for families, for professionals, anyone who calls upon me. I am the outreach source, and I try to make, every, I guess, for lack of a better word, but for the word that we use in this, in this setting is I try to make a seamless referral to, professionals and to clients, between professionals and clients, that really it matters, but it's also a continuum of care. I'm very proud to say that the people that I connect with, professionals and professionals with people, I have a very low relapse rate. I have a great alumni program. I outsource with nonprofits and for-profit companies. And so I just pride myself on really going through the actual system myself. 11 years ago was extremely tough. One, as a woman, two, to be starting in that realm of recovery, and three, having absolutely no one to explain to me even what the first step was. Initially, I took that step and I made a call. I have some great mentors in my life, but I always said years from that day that I would then be that mentor and be in someone else's life, and then find other mentors to connect, people with. That is why I'm so happy that I met Tricia, and every day I think of someone that I can connect with her, because one, her story, and two, she's just multifaceted, and three, I think that she really does somewhat fill that space that we really need to fill in between treatment and the continuum of care. So I hope that was okay for that introduction.
No, that was great, because I think, bringing people into, because we do have multi-levels of recovery here with us today, on screen, in the room, and I'm sure watching, right? Different, the vastness of it, right? So, Rebecca, when you and I talk, we're always talking about that void, right? So that's the now what's next. Treatment, as dictated by, say, insurance these days, regardless of whether it's a chemical, a dietary issue, a mental health issue, right? Like, it's drastically restricted. So for people to even meet criteria for treatment is, pretty significant. I have that a lot of my clients don't meet criteria, need to actually get the traditional levels of care, but they're shorter. Back in my day, it was 90 days, 30, 60, 90, depending upon your level of severity, and for some it would be more like 6 months to a year before they were discontinuing your connection to those higher levels of care. And now we're seeing, we get stabilization, but then we're really left to work within the confines of social supports and individual therapeutic type situations. So it's really nice to know that there are people out there that are connecting, the outpatient type programs, and the residentials, and the stabilization, and then folks like myself who believe that working with people in their lives actually helps them figure out why they were trying to avoid coping, or where did they miss coping skills. Was it since childhood? Like, we all have conditioned behaviors. That hand to mouth, when it comes to food addictions and eating disorders and body image and all of that, like, there's a lot that comes to play with addictive behaviors. and where they came from. Anyway, no, I thought that was perfect. It's amazing when, you know, when you find somebody that is actually out there connecting all the people, you know, helping us have a collaborative versus a competitive mindset.
Yeah,
It's
I
really-
definitely look at myself as the connective tissue of this, for, you know, for lack of a better word, again, industry, because I just think that it's lacking. And sometimes it does take someone who's been through all of, you know, the different facets, but you don't necessarily have to either. I mean, there's a lot of great outreach personnel out there. I work with probably the top of the top, to be honest with you. And I learn from them every single day, you know, as I learn from yourself and other professionals. But I think that another thing that we're talking about today too, the eating disorders, really, it's lacking. You know, there's very few resources, and we really need to step it up with referring to people that understand this part of it also.
Sure, because, you know, as somebody who's struggled with anorexia and body dysmorphia and restricting and you know, for a significant period of my life, it is it can be very tough to get connected to the right fit, because it is such a psychological problem and nobody truly knows what creates those issues for people. And it's something that I really enjoy working with my clients on is restructuring that and creating the right relationship with food and the physical body. So yeah, it's giant, it's huge. And then we come across people, and Casey, you know, I think just couldn't make it today, but Casey, she's a lovely, lovely woman. And I just didn't want to pass up a little bit of what she was going to be bringing here to the room. And so I think I'm just going to, you know, take a little stab at it as a professional who does work with people that have food addictions, that do have disordered eating, and, you know, people that are, you know, needing a healthy lifestyle. Because when we're in recovery, everything needs to recover, right? Our organs need to recover, our brains need to recover, our, you know, endocrine system needs to recover, everything needs to recover. But, you know, Casey really has like this beautiful, unique way of defining the diet culture, which is something that I love. It's what pulled me into her, because I am the biggest advocate for no fad diets, right? Like, we all need to be eating the way that our bodies need us to eat, and it's individual. 100% individual. I have multiple autoimmune disorders that, you know, so I can't even just do the low FODMAP. I can't just do a keto. I can't, you know, I have to figure out what foods work for me when, because guess what works for me today might not work tomorrow. And I've always got to be in this constant state of observing and listening and honoring my physical body as it tells me, back off the nut butter, girlfriend, you know, like whatever it is, right? But that diet culture, we want to create a relationship with food that is lifelong, manageable, and maintainable, right? So we don't have to go on crash diets, you know, and then, you know, and feel restricted and feel punished and just, and then get where we were wanting to go and then have to start all over again when the weight comes back. Anyway, so she has a very wonderful way of an elegant way of talking about the diet culture, but also weight stigma. Because quite honestly, you know, I think a lot of people, when they hear eating disorder, I think they gravitate more towards the anorexia, and they look at other weights as different things, right? So clearly, you know, when we have obesity, people are looking at overeating. And it may not even be that it's a food addiction. It could be completely an emotional situation where that's our self-soothing tactic, but it also could be nothing to do whatsoever with an eating disorder. So I think we have like this really strange way of, again, just same thing with addiction. When we hear the word, we think of somebody down, out, ill, dysfunctional, you know, And we do the same when we hear eating disorder. We hear like, sickly, gaunt, and I have plenty of clients that are not even in an unhealthy weight category. They are actually in a healthy category, but they still have eating disorders. Right. So, just like my heroin addicts that are drop dead gorgeous that you would never know were heroin addicts. Like you just wouldn't know. They're functioning, they're gorgeous, they're models, they're you name it. And you just go, who would have ever thought? Right. So we have this
Mhm.
and then, when I think, what Casey has like a beautiful practice, and, she likes to talk about joyful movement. Because I think we look at as exercise as a means to an end instead of something beautiful that gives us great reward. Because when we're in motion, when we're outside and we're moving, right, it elevates us. It brings us good dopamine, good juju, right? Like it's super helpful. And so it's not about having to be in the gym 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's about finding joyful movement and bringing goodness into your life so that you're promoting that healthy body, but also a healthy dialogue inside. So that's my big stab at what Casey, was going to be able to bring to the table today. Obviously she couldn't be here, and that's our loss. But hopefully next time she'll be able to join us. But with that, I maybe you picked up on it, maybe you didn't, but I do have this entire piece. It's a healthy living. It's a 7-day food mood journal, and it's a whole practice that I go through with my clients. And it's when I met Dee Dee, I was so stoked because now I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian, and I'm sure Dee Dee's going to tell you the same about herself. But when we think about it, there are certainly medical reasons to need to engage with nutritionists. There are absolutely psychological needs to need dietitians, 100%. But if we're talking about that autonomy to be able to create our own dietary practice and to really dive in and get to know ourselves. Like Dee Dee's got like this system, and I had to invite her because she has an amazing story that goes behind how she got here. But meal prepping and meal planning, like wow, like it's all the rage for a lot of people. I mean, you see it all over Instagram, but I don't think anybody's really talking about why it's so important to our overall health. So, Dee Dee, I'm going to let you take over. You're here. You could talk about your stuff.
Well, yes, I'm so excited that Tricia and it was just a random thing in a Facebook group that she posted something. I thought it was so charming and lovely. I reached out to her and now we're connected, and I can't wait to find all the great ways that we're going to work together. But yeah, meal planning and prep is something that is all the rage, especially over the last year. During the pandemic, everyone's like, oh, everyone has to cook at home so much more often. Everyone eats and all the people in the house have to eat. And it's very overwhelming. So we're seeing a rise in people trying to find that quick way to stay healthy. And I think we all can agree that staying healthy it's not about a quick thing. It's about a sustainable thing. And so I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist, as Tricia alluded to. I'm just someone with an autoimmune disorder that figured out I'm apparently not going to live forever. Go figure. And that a few years ago, I left my nonprofit sector job, and I worked in that sector for 20 years, and just I needed a change. And this was just this interesting journey that I wound up finding a way to help other people figure out what they can eat. I think that what we hear is when you hear those fad diets, or you hear folks who have all these restrictions, and here's all this whole list of things I can't eat, and it's overwhelming and it's not sustainable, that I like to work with folks to focus on what they can eat and try to help them find joy in a way that is sustainable with their meals. So I run things called meal plan pods, where folks who have a certain way that they're trying to eat or want to eat and want to sustain that I can actually plug that into a system that I use that will come up with meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, everything in between that really meet people's needs. So you mentioned low FODMAP, and that is a more restrictive set of guidelines. And there is really a long list of things people can eat. So it's helping people see what they can eat and providing them the tools to make it sustainable, including grocery lists, including nutrition information, if that's useful, including support. I think that that's really where a lot of us fall down, is that we think we're in this all by ourselves, and trying to link with other people who are going through the same struggle or trying to eat in the same or similar fashion is providing that sense of connection to be able to sustain those efforts. So that's in a nutshell, or not a nutshell if you're not allowed to eat nuts. What I do.
I think that's how we opened this. I was like, okay, I've got my little energy snack here on the desk. It's not going to make me so happy later, but it's what I had time for. But you know what, I heard some things in there that, you know, are really intriguing for me, and maybe for other people in the room. But, you know, I heard you talking about, you know, whatever their goals are, like whether, you know, depending upon what autoimmune it might be, or whatever their physical body recovery needs are. So even though you aren't a nutritionist or a dietitian, and this is just me, you know, tossing this out there, but because this is the way I work. So people that are in early recovery, say from alcohol or opiates, like we have some very specific nutrient needs, and eating disorders, right? Like if we've been in a restrictive pattern or a binge pattern, purge pattern, like we have some very specific things. Like I have very specific minerals and proteins and things like that I like for my clients to make sure that they're getting. Right. And I keep a list, and it's scientifically proven to work for these different things, but also, you know, to help with that healing process, but also to help reduce post-acute withdrawal. And, oh, I just lost it. But, you know, to help with that recovery process, right? Like the organs healing and the brain fog and all of these things. So if say I came to you and said, hey, I've got this ABC client, this is the recovery journey. Like if one of your pods doesn't necessarily match, are you able to tweak that for them to kind of based on the guidelines?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have folks that come to me who have either seen a functional nutritionist, have seen a dietitian, have seen a healthcare professional, whatever that healthcare professional might look like, and say, you know, I have these guidelines and here's how I'm supposed to eat, or here's how I'm not supposed to eat. And it doesn't fit any of these pods that you already have. I absolutely have what I call customize your own adventure. And it's taking someone's really individualized needs and translating that to something that works for them. So my background is in disability, and in the disability world, we're all about individualized plans, meeting people where they are. And so I feel like that part of my training and my background makes me really uniquely able to think in that way, to say, you know, Tricia, you need these things. Necole, you might need something similar, but different. It doesn't mean that you can't still get support from one another, and you might not be able to benefit from supporting one another or being in connection, but I can tweak and make sure that you're each getting what you need nutrient wise, that you're getting what you need energy wise. I can do all of those things that are very specific, right down to macronutrients, right down to individual minerals, as you were mentioning. And so I'm really lucky that I am able to tap into that. And I know what my limitations are. When somebody says, you know, I'm really in need of, you know, trying to figure out what's going on with my, you know, physiologically, what's going on with me, I say, whoa, okay, I'm not your first stop. You know, I'm not here to make a recommendation on how you should or shouldn't be eating and what you need. You know, how can I connect you with somebody like Tricia? How can I connect you with, you know, a functional nutritionist? How can I connect you with other people in my network? Rebecca, I'm going back to being a connector, you know, connecting people with what they need at that moment. And sometimes I'm not what they need at the moment, but hopefully eventually I can also help them as they hit that journey.
I love that, because I think, again, because we talk about, as women in business, you know, we talk about collaborating over competition, right? And Casey actually introduced me to that hashtag, which is awesome. But, you know, collaborating over competition, because here's the deal, you know, I I love that you stay in your scope of practice. I stay in my scope of practice. Like I can help people identify what's working and what's not working. But when it comes down to, mm, creating, like a meal plan or, having, the resources to pull from that. Again, not a nutritionist, not a dietitian, but I can help you, listen and read your body. I can give you the list of things, right? But when it comes to your height, your weight, how much your calorie intake needs to be, like, meh. Or, some of those other things, right? And there's just, it's about, staying in that and making sure that, we're staying in our scope, right? Like I all day long got the psychological piece to what's going on in our brains when it's alcohol, any chemical substance, when you're talking about, food, when you're talking about body image, and any other process or behavioral addiction for that matter, but it's staying on theme here because we're all foodies of some sort. um, just being able to say, we've got like this great synergy, which is awesome. But how do you combat people's, because I get, it's just too expensive to go to the grocery store, da, 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 da. And so it's cheaper for me to go to Taco Bell to get the $5 pack of crud, or I love McDonald's hamburgers, when they don't know that McDonald's hamburgers have sugar in them, which is another issue in recovery, is the cross addiction, right? Take somebody's opiates or alcohol away and now they're a sugar addict.
Yeah, and it's and one of the arguments I generally say is that's great. In that moment, you think that going through the drive-through is quote cheaper, but when you look at the impact on your health, it's about playing the long game. It's not about a quick fix.
Right.
And when you're looking at the impact on your health, what is that worth? And the other part of that is that healthy food doesn't have to be expensive. It just doesn't have to be. So if one of the limiting issues that somebody has when they come to me is, I can't afford to go to Whole Foods, or I can't afford to go to, you don't have to do that. How do I help construct a meal plan that meets your needs, but also is not going to be using, really expensive ingredients? That's not the point. That's not the point. So yeah, it's about meeting people where they are.
Right.
And that includes helping them understand that fast food is not fast nutrition. And nutrition isn't always fast. And
right.
Maybe shouldn't be.
Well, and you alluded to this also before, that quick fix. This is part of the problem with people, anybody in recovery or an addiction or whatever kind of addiction it is. It's all about that external locus of control, something outside of me that's going to bring me peace, joy, comfort, relief, or instant gratification. And
and there are times that sometimes a pizza is what I want. Like sometimes a pizza is what I want.
Right.
But I also have to recognize that I'm going to pay for that. In what way, shape, or form? What's the trade-off? And I'm not going to do that every night. I might do it, once every couple months. It's not about.
So we're talking about,
Oh, absolutely.
My clients,
but not making people feel guilty about making a mistake and making a misstep is about giving them the right tools to come back to it in a way that they can rely on. So awesome. So yeah, I love that, because I think also we need to be able to support each other, when women in business are all working together, like support each other and knowing, because I have to be able to help people with that impulse, instant gratification, right? Need that external locus of control. I got to get them to like slow down, man. Like take a pause, take a breath, take a beat, do a cost versus benefit, like analysis, and see whatever thought, feeling, emotion, knee-jerk reactivity, impulsive action you want to do. Like, let's look at it first. Mm-hmm. And when you get them in there and you get them slowing down, now we can get them slowing down long enough to go, I don't need Taco Bell. Home is 3 minutes away and I've got corn tortillas and beautiful chicken in the refrigerator at home, and I can make my own taco, mm-hmm. right? Yeah.
Thank you. And it's funny because, you're talking about, all of these things, right? Like the prepping and all of that. And Necole has come up with like such a beautiful, amazing, passionate way to get involved with her dietary practices. And I think it's really awesome, as y'all have heard me refer to, alcohol and opiate addictions, right? The opiate addictions, it's a big deal. And when we have a need, we'll call it, post surgery, something like that, for these type of pain meds, we need to know what our true risk factors are. So you think about it, the withdrawal from an opiate is pain. So how are we not contributing to the addictive nature of these opiates by as that pill wears off, you're going to feel pain. You're going to think I need more, right? But we have other alternatives. So we need to start talking out loud about the alternatives, and cannabis is one of those. I'm a big believer in harm reduction. And whereas cannabis maybe isn't necessarily something that works well for me, I have a ton of clients that it works tremendously for varying reasons, whether that's the depression, the eating disorder. Gotta say, like, if we got somebody that's not eating, it's okay to give them a little bit of an edible to, to spark some, food cravings, and a whole bunch of different, different things. But if we're talking about inflammation, pain, healing from injury, things like that, like in the world of harm reduction, we've got to be embracing some of these natural remedies we have. One, through our dietary practice, like Dee Dee was talking about, but also, again, like Necole has. And I'm going to let her share about it before I get off on a tangent, because she's got some really cool benefits of cooking with cannabis. Like it's pretty cool. Necole, hi.
Hi,
Thank you for being
everyone.
patient.
Oh, no worries. This has been awesome. I just love soaking in information all the time. So this is great. But yeah, that's true. I use cannabis, as you had mentioned. I actually have been using it for many, many years, and didn't even realize how therapeutic it was until I needed to use it for pain management. So I had a car accident 5.5 years ago, and I chose to go the route of using cannabis for pain management as opposed to going to the opioid route. And the reason I chose not to go the opioid route is not because I had family members or had like a personal sort of connection or addiction issues, but I'm a documentary buff, and I watched enough documentaries about the opioid crisis. I've read enough articles about the opioid crisis. I've seen towns both in the United States and Canada. I'm currently in Vancouver, BC, Canada, where I just didn't want to be a part of that. I'm a mom of 3 sons. They were younger at the time. So I wanted something else, but I knew I needed something to help with the pain. And before I actually got started to actually use cannabis to help with it, I was using over-the-counter medication, sort of like a Motrin, that type of thing. And then I had to go to the doctor to get medication to help because my stomach was having issues. So I needed to get medication to counteract the medication. And so in my mind, it made no logical sense at all. So although I was a cannabis consumer, I was smoking, there's not always the opportunities to smoke, number one. Sometimes you're just not always in the place to do so. And number two, like, I'm in my 40s, I'm getting older. I wanted to learn other methods to use cannabis, just so that I'm accustomed to it, so that as I age, I'm not like just thrown into a different route. And then as I started to navigate, cooking was a major route because I had a food business prior. So I was in the industry sort of like cooking for others, and I decided to incorporate the two. What I love about working also with cannabis is that it allows you to take control, because if if you are lucky to live in a state or country where you can even grow, you have the ability to grow your own medicine so that you know what's in there. You can make it organic. You know, you don't have to put anything in it other than your love, right? So I chose to, at first when I got, decided to use cannabis for pain management, I went the route of getting a prescription, getting dried flower to smoke. And then in time, I turned that dried flower into oil. And now I cook and I create savory dishes. I'm all for edibles and all of that. But the thing about edibles that I realized is that a lot of edibles are made with a lot of sugar. And then again, it doesn't count. It just totally makes no sense to me, right? Like here you have plant medicine and now you're like counteracting it with all this sugar. So, and I personally, I mean, as much as I do love sweets, I've never been a pastry chef. I've never been a baker. I've never been any of those things. So I wanted to incorporate it into savory dishes. And that's what I did. I created my own oil. I started cooking with it. And the beauty and the benefit of cooking with it is that you get a body relaxation, which is really therapeutic. It's great for your pain management and it lasts long. So that's sort of the route I took.
So you said it lasts long. So
Yeah.
the way that
Because-
you're creating it into oils and cooking it in the food, because okay, so alcohol, you put alcohol in a hot pan, you're losing all the alcohol. So from an alcoholic, right?
Right. So you still
Right, for
do have
years,
to,
like, wait, don't put that wine in the pan.
yeah.
You're wasting alcohol, right? Help me understand. Help my little brain.
Sure.
understand.
So in the process of even creating your oil, when you're working with the dried flower, you have to activate it actually. So if I were to just eat cannabis right now, I would get some benefits from it, but I wouldn't get the full benefit of it, right? When it's in its still form, it's got THCA, I believe. And so in order to get the THC, which is that active component to give you all those benefits from whether feeling like, as though you're high or getting all that body love is what I kind of call it. You do have to put it in the oven and you got to bake it, which is called decarboxylation. So you got to do that at a low temperature at about 200, 220 for, under an hour. And then you take that, now decarbed cannabis and you can put it in some oil. It still also has to be processed on a low heat. So the reality is, like, when I cook with cannabis, the dishes that I'm making are low heat dishes. Because if I were to fry something, if I were to fry, whatever, shrimp, chicken, whatever the case may be, you're gonna lose all the benefits of the
Okay.
THC. Yeah, you're gonna lose the
So it's
benefits.
about the level of heat. Okay, that
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
So I love that though, because
But when the last thing I did want to mention, when I meant that it lasts longer, it's because, like, if I were to smoke a joint right now, I would feel the effects pretty instantly, and then your effects don't last as long. Whereas I believe with edibles, because they are processed through your liver, it will last long, and it can last from 4, 6, 8, 12, etc. hours, right? So that's kind of the beauty of the edible, especially if you're dealing with a lot of pain. It's something that you can make a chocolate pudding. Here we go, sugar again, but you can make a low sugar chocolate pudding, for instance, or a gravy or a dressing, right? And or a chutney, and you can have that for your dinner. It can help with your sleep. And plus, I'm getting a little bit sophisticated enough to start also looking into the terpene profile of a strain, because terpenes, for instance, like, are found in a lot of different things. There are terpenes in, let's say, lemons, and like limonene is a terpene, right? That's found in a lot of cannabis, but it's also found in the rind of, grapefruit and lemon and all of that. And terpenes, the limonene actually helps with things like, it's anti-inflammatory, it is antifungal, it helps a lot of people with anxiety, etc. Right? So what I've been doing is I've been creating a dish, like, let's say a dressing, like a vinaigrette, which would have lemon in it. So it already has the terpenes from the lemon. And then I'll take a cannabis strain that is heavy in terpenes as well. then create that dressing to give me maximum benefits.
That's so cool. That is really cool. So, when we're talking about all the many faces of what a recovery lifestyle can look like we get to choose. I think it is so amazing, like as people, and how we can take the word recovery that, where we started at the beginning of this conversation, which is, addiction and recovery. We think of, again, the not functioning, and we get all the way through this room of women who just kind of ended up meeting each other, right? And we can talk about so many different faces of recovery and what those journeys might look like. And I know I didn't, I think I usually just take for granted that people have any kind of clue what I truly do. I know that I introduced myself as a master addictions coach, and a personal life coach and a professional life interventionist. But who I truly am is a believer in the fact that we do recover. And when we have that power, like my motto is, this is my life too. It gets to look, feel, be however I want it to. And so when I was in my journey, and I have to say, my traumatic events, they date back to, the age of 4. And when I really start, looking at, how my life started to unfold, like really not surprising to me that I ended up with an attachment to alcohol, that I ended up with, body dysmorphia, which was something that was, a real thing for me. And then, the full on eating disorders, because all of the different things that I was, moving through in my life are very indicative and proven through research to be like what most people with these types of this level of behavioral process and chemical addictions, have to go through and experience. But what I found in my journey was that, I wanted to know everything that there was to know. So I learned everything I could find out about post-acute withdrawal, which is super, necessary. And I studied all the evidence-based practices. I worked in every single level of addiction treatment that there is, up to including creating program and being a patient care director, and just really started cultivating and marrying those evidence-based practices with the lifestyle that was working for me. And this allows me that ability to teach psychological practices in practical tactics that people can actually implement in their life. So my clients, when I say the not so normal faces of addiction, this is people that come to me out of stabilization who say, I got to know how to function in my life. I want to learn how to see, hear, feel, experience my environment in a way that allows me to see myself in the light that I want to see myself. Right. And for any of you that aren't following along, like, I totally get it. But my crazy makes sense to those people that it makes sense to, right? Like, we look in the mirror and we don't like the way that we see ourselves, or we're just not happy with the way we hear anything that's going on outside of us. Like the environment around us, even if we're isolated, we don't like that either. And we have to learn how to experience living differently. And that means we have to know how we want to see ourselves, how we want to experience ourselves, how we want to be experienced by others and experienced by our environment, which means we have to learn how to lead by great example. And that means we have to develop a whole lot of emotional intelligence and personal empowerment and belief, right? And I have a list of beliefs that go along with everything that I teach, speak about, and coach. And I just think that it's a really important factor. But there's also those other not so normal faces of addiction. We have right now COVID habits. that have gone crazy, right? The last time I checked the statistics, alcohol sales, online alcohol sales were up over 200%. Alcohol sales to women was up over 41% or 45%. And heavy drinking was up over 41% with women. So we're just talking about women here, right? So not just the drinking, right? Because now we're what? We're really falling into our people-pleasing codependency, right? Now we've got to show up and be like the teacher, the housekeeper. We've got to navigate our profession from home and like be juggling it all around. And it's February still, right? So we're all probably still trying to control ourselves with these New Year's resolutions. Another thing of mine that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. To me, it's just like a, fad diet. But anyway, and so we have the shopping. Whoa, how many times has Amazon come to your house this week? It's only Wednesday, but ask yourself that. Food. What are we doing? We're sitting on the couch. Right? For all different kinds of reasons. Whether that's just so we can feel full because we're feeling super empty, we're bored, we're trying to self-soothe, we're depressed, again, we're trying to fill ourselves, or whatever the reason is, right? Like we're all home, baking, just cooking in general. And so we're eating more. People are eating more. People are, the scales are going up. We're less active. Why? There's no reason that we can't have an appropriate fitness regimen. Because I don't care where you live, like you can do leg ups on your couch. I'll show you how to get yourself physically active again. Like you can do it. It's all a bunch of external sources, which if you haven't picked up on it, the locus of control theory is what was my big aha moment. Extremely pivotal, because everything that was not right in my life was actually coming from something that was outside of me. So it helped me become completely self-reliant. So, for me, COVID, yeah, it's a change, but it's not derailing me. But that's because I'm eating, sleeping, and breathing all of these practices that I've had to learn, and incorporate in my life to end that 30-year love affair with addictions, processed, behavioral, and chemical, right? Like big, solid period of time. And I'm not mentioning the autoimmune. I'm not mentioning the near-death experiences because of chronic internal issues. I'm not accentuating those, but they are a big piece to my recovery process. I have rheumatoid arthritis, I have Sjogren, gastroparesis, gastritis, and it's some others that we just aren't even sure about. We don't know. It is whatever, right? So, but we have to be productive and proactive. We have to be willing to go out and figure out what it is for ourselves that makes us tick. What is it that's not working well? Why? How can I? We have to be asking ourselves these questions. So when I'm working with people, I'm always looking for people like you guys that get the recovery process from one angle or another. And we can, really be looking at that because, wow, a lot of useful information here, a lot of normalization and a lot of destigmatizing has happened, I think, in this space. I did want to take a moment and say a couple things. One, for anybody that's watching this live stream or the replay in the Over 40 Fearless and Free group, or on my personal or my business page, I will be dropping everybody's e-card information into the comments. So you'll be able to reach out to Rebecca, you'll be able to reach out to Dee Dee, you'll be able to reach out to Necole, and of course I'll put my information in there too, so that you can explore further. You can ask questions deeper. So that information is going to be available. We are spread out across the nation, but I think that's, one of the beautiful things that, COVID has, afforded us is this eyes wide open, right? Eyes wide open. We have sisters everywhere, and we can actually do a lot of good things and make a lot of forward moving momentum. And I know I kind of cut my thought off, and I did that with intention of time because it is 2:51, and I wanted to take a moment to say hi to Anne and see if she had any questions, comments, anything that she wanted to add in, but also to give each of you three ladies the opportunity to give your bow out. Anyway, hi, Anne.
Hi, thank you. I have to say, this has been so incredibly refreshing because I work in the world of eating disorders with the sickest of the sick patients. I went to a funeral yesterday, and that's been my world for so long. And it's so exciting to just talk with women that can that are just healthier and that have already walked so much of the path and now, don't need me. I'm now remembering and realizing there's a lot of women out there who need you all. Luckily, they don't need me anymore, right? Or maybe they never would need me, but that there are people that are not so sick that live in my world that could benefit from what you all are doing. And that is like so incredibly refreshing to me. Because it's easy to get just stuck in the world of working with people that are so ill, and then they lose sight of the life that they can create for themselves. Can lose sight of the life that they can create for themselves. So it is exciting to hear that there's women like you all out there doing this stuff and offering your services to people who can really benefit from it. So it's just been very refreshing for me. So thank you so much for inviting me, Rebecca. I appreciate it. And meeting all.
My goal has been hit. Yes. That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, Anne, and for being with us this evening. I know that you said you went to a funeral yesterday, and I know from talking with you this morning, you had a super busy day today. So I appreciate you so much. And I know that this is such a big passion of yours, and, you have a thriving practice, and you yourself are just a phenomenal person. And I feel honored that you came and visited us, and I feel honored all of these women are on here. This is just a different conversation that it just takes really a lot of collaboration and outreach to make happen. And I'm just really thankful for that because, like even a year ago, I don't think that, we could have all been able to jump on a Zoom like this together and heard everybody's perspectives and, understand how everyone's education and past, and every woman on here knowing what lane they're in and being very confident in that actually makes us a dynamic team. So that's exciting. But thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Well, and for me, again, you just said it, Rebecca, a year ago, I don't think any of us could have ever envisioned this. For me, my business looked completely different a year ago. I realize now that it was a very micro way to look at how I was helping people. And COVID has changed a lot of things, but one of the good things that came out of it helped me look at a way that I could use my interests and my new skill sets and all of these things to help people on a much broader scale. And in a way that even 2 weeks ago, if you had asked me if I specifically do you work with people in recovery, I would have said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, but there would have been a really heavy on the butt. And now it's such it's that little light bulb going off going, of course this makes sense, that the service that I can provide and that gap that I can help fill. I tell people that, they get guidance on how to eat for whatever reason, whether they're coming out of recovery and whatever that recovery is, or other kinds of issues, and they're sent out into the world. And I like being where the rubber meets the road, really helping people with that part. And like we said, staying in our lane, but recognizing there's this other gap to be filled, and that I can fill it with all of you as colleagues now is really amazing. I love this. I'm so excited about the possibilities of how I think we're all going to transform and make so many people's lives more free.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
totally
I agree.
piggyback on you on that, Dee Dee. I totally agree with you as well. I think for me, what COVID did was it actually empowered me a bit. I quit my job in COVID, and I actually launched my business in COVID, right? So, I mean, I was cooking with cannabis. I've been in the industry for about 3.5 years, so it's not new and foreign to me. And then, of course, as a medical patient, I've been for much longer as well. But I believe that there's so much connectedness with the people that we work with that I think that we'll be able to do a lot of great work with. And with COVID, everything, or a high percentage of what we do, is virtual. And so I think that
Yep.
will allow
Yeah.
for us to really work together a lot. So I'm so thankful to be here, and thank you so much, Tricia, for inviting me and curating this. This is fantastic.
Well, I love to have a thought. I love to have a vision, and I would love to say that I could just manifest things, but I'm a big believer in manifestation requires action. So, all I did was put out, like, here's my desire, guys. Like, this is what I want. Y'all answered and you came. So you're showing up, right? Like, we have to do the work. Anybody that thinks that anything is going to happen for them without any kind of action or input or, whatever, I'm sorry. But like, we're all out here, and it's, again, if you see something that speaks your language, if you see something that speaks to you, act on it. If anything that we're saying to you here, for anybody that's, listening, that we can't see, that we can't see, if you're here and you're listening, if there's anything that we have said that intrigues you, excites you, invigorates you, or makes you go, holy cow, I need to do something, right? And wow, I never knew that there were people out there that may understand me or might have like an avenue that will work for me. Because I have a lot of parents that just can't not go to work and go to treatment, right? Like, I gotta help them also. Now, again, insurance wise, or my own malpractice insurance wise, like, I have to stay in my scope, but I am a really good at connecting people with services at the right level of care. But if we aren't productive, if we're not proactive, if we're not purposeful in our action, I don't care who you are, nothing's manifesting without that part of it. Nothing's manifesting from sitting on your couch. You can talk to your girlfriends all day long about how much you want to quit drinking, about how much you're tired of the pain. But the longer you sit there with the bottle or the bucket of brownies, nothing's happening, right? And if you keep ordering on Amazon and you keep shopping, like, your bank account's going to continue to be less and less able to handle what you need to do. I had a client just yesterday. She sent me her savings account from not drinking in 2 weeks. Like, the whole, like, the amount that she was spending. I'm like, see, I'm free. Like, dude, I'm free. I'm not costing you a dang penny if you're spending that, right? If you add it up, if you're buying a couple bottles of wine every single day, there's no reason you can't afford to engage with working with a professional that's going to help you be able to create a lifelong, manageable, and maintainable, healthy lifestyle that includes how you think, feel, and believe about yourself, that can't help you, pick some healthier activities, right? Like, I'm not about changing one habit for the next. I'm not going to tell you to go become a gym rat, because I believe that cross addiction is a big barrier that we have. I think we almost push people in that direction. You get healthy, you get sober. Now you go follow this diet and you go do this exercise plan. And so they're not really learning everything that they need to learn about being, what is the word that I'm looking for?
about
Self-sufficient,
being
self-sufficient, whatever, right? Like,
Sustaining.
yeah, just self-sufficient. Like we're all hoping to raise self-sufficient young adults, right? Well, we better start leading by example. Just saying. Anyway, you guys were amazing. I can't wait to put together another one. And now that we've gotten to know each other, we can start really, we can really start to, I don't know, do some super cool things. I'm going to turn off live. So wave goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
See if I can